Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our virtual legal clinic, Know Your Rights Unemployment Benefits. I'm Nikki Parlato, and I'm the Adult Education Community Schools Navigator with Say Yes. I'm really excited to introduce our colleague with the Volunteer Lawyers Project today, Miss Emily Alvarez, who is going to introduce our attorney this afternoon for unemployment benefits. Take it away, Emily.
Hello, everyone. Thank you again for joining us in today's session. I'm very excited for today's presentation. It's on a topic that's very important, especially since the pandemic began last year. We've seen a lot going on in terms of unemployment, so I'm very excited we were able to get this presentation out to you guys. I have the pleasure of presenting our speaker today, Valdora Estridge. Valdora joined the Volunteer Lawyers Project as a staff attorney in October 2016. She specializes in employment law, representing and providing legal assistance to unemployment insurance benefit claimants throughout New York State, though primarily in Western New York. She also provides limited wage claim assistance. Her other practice areas are child support, custody and visitation, and divorce. Additionally, she is a supervising attorney for the micro-entrepreneurship and not-for-profit programs at VLP. Ms. Estridge received her Juris Doctorate with a concentration in finance transactions from SUNY Buffalo Law School. During her time there, she served on the Buffalo Journal of Gender, Law, and Social Policy from 2010 until 2012, and was a student attorney in the Economic Advocacy Clinic, where she specialized in not-for-profit corporations. Ms. Estridge has done VAWA immigration legal work as well. She was a summer law intern in the New York State Unified Court System at Buffalo City Court, as well as a summer law intern for Erie County Medical Center Corporation under the supervision of in-house attorneys. Ms. Estridge is currently a member of the American Bar Association, the New York State Bar Association, and the Erie County Bar Association. Thank you so much, Valdora, for creating this presentation for us today, and I'll let you take it from here.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for having me. Just so we have an idea of today's programming, we'll be going over the few different types of benefits that the Department of Labor currently offers, which are unemployment insurance benefits, pandemic unemployment assistance, the Federal Pandemic Unemployment Compensation Program, pandemic emergency unemployment compensation, and extended benefits. We'll also go into how you go about filing for unemployment assistance, what is a benefit year and why is that important to us. We'll also address some of the latest changes to this program. It isn't all-inclusive. However, we will address the Mixed Earner Unemployment Compensation Program, the American Rescue Plan, partial unemployment eligibility, and fraud. We'll also cover what to do if you get a determination that you do not agree with. And we'll discuss how you can get legal assistance with all of the above. And lastly, of course, there'll be time for questions. However, I do want to encourage that if during the presentation you come up with a question, feel free to ask it, as I'm totally fine with answering questions throughout. So first, we'll start with unemployment insurance benefits. This is at the core of everything with the Department of Labor when it comes to monies received after job loss. Simply put, unemployment insurance benefits is temporary income after job loss due to no fault of the employee. Currently, you can receive at most 70 weeks of benefits. Now, that includes the 26 weeks of regular benefits that existed prior to the pandemic. It includes 24 weeks of what's known as pandemic emergency unemployment compensation, and it includes up to 20 weeks of additional extended benefits. I just want to note that even though there is still a pandemic, none of the eligibility requirements have changed. So that requires that an applicant has worked and earned enough wages in what's known as covered employment. Additionally, for each week that you certify, you must be ready, willing, and able to work. Those are always the three prongs that exist with unemployment, and you need to be actively looking for work. Now, because it is a pandemic, there is the understanding that work might not be available, but you should still be able to produce your job search results if you're asked to do so. Pandemic unemployment assistance was created as part of the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act. So that was put in place for workers who do not qualify for traditional unemployment insurance benefits, but they're still unable to work due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Through that program, if you qualify, you will get at most, currently, up to 57 weeks of benefits. The eligibility for this is that you must be self-employed, an independent contractor, what's known as a gig worker, which would be, for example, someone who works for Uber, for Lyft, DoorDash, something along those lines, or a farmer. Your lack of income must be some way directly related to COVID-19, and that is for yourself or a household member. Now, just as a point of clarification, when I say direct relation to COVID-19, I do want to emphasize that it requires that it's more than the fear of catching the coronavirus. You need to have been directly actually affected by it. So for example, if your school-age child has to remain home, you can't find a day program for that child, there's no one to take care of your child while you work, that might qualify you for pandemic unemployment assistance. Possibly your physician advises that you need to quarantine for whatever reason. That might qualify you for pandemic unemployment assistance. But on the other end, for example, if your coworker catches COVID and now you don't want to return to work, that would not qualify you for benefits. The ability for either unemployment insurance benefits or pandemic unemployment assistance, the ability to telework or receive paid leave benefits automatically disqualifies you from receiving benefits. I do want to add that if you're on any form of approved leave from your employment, even if it's not paid, that will disqualify you from receiving benefits. So for example, say if you take FMLA, you've run out of PTO, but you're still allowed to be out of work, you can't during that time apply for unemployment insurance benefits or pandemic unemployment assistance. You would not qualify. So I always tell people, you want to make sure that you and your former employer have the same understanding as to your status at your place of previous employment. Next up is the Federal Pandemic Unemployment Compensation Program. It's periodically available. It was available back in April to July of last year, and that was the $600 weekly that everyone was receiving, many people were receiving. This year, it was the January 3rd to March 14th, $300 that were paid out weekly. And any future benefits in that program does depend on additional legislation. So it may or may not be available in the future, and if so, the amount is unknown, but it always exists in conjunction with one of the base payments from either regular unemployment insurance benefits or the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program. The Pandemic Emergency Unemployment Compensation Program came about because prior to the pandemic, you could only receive up to 26 weeks of regular unemployment insurance benefits. Because of the CARES Act now, if you are a recipient of regular unemployment insurance benefits, you can collect additional benefits beyond those 26 weeks. So currently, that's up to an additional 24 weeks of benefits, which are known as the Pandemic Emergency Unemployment Compensation. You must first exhaust those 26 weeks of regular unemployment insurance benefit compensation, and then you can start to collect the additional benefits. Now, due to legislation, the ability to start collecting it just ended on March 14th. However, if you already started collecting, you can continue to collect until your 24 weeks of PEUC are maxed out, or up until the week ending of April 11th, 2021. But you do only get at most 24 weeks of those benefits. The extended benefits program, the availability of this can change at any point. So it depends on New York State's rate of unemployment. Currently, New York State does qualify to offer the extended benefits program. And the federal government measures this by calculating what is known as New York's level of unemployment, the unemployment rate. The unemployment rate is quantified by dividing the estimated number of unemployed individuals by the total labor force. So if we just quickly look at some recent numbers for New York, and that's the line highlighted in yellow, back in September of 2020, the rate was at 10.0. In December, 8.7. And for the most recent quantified numbers, February 2021, that was 8.9%. Under the extended benefits program, you can collect up to an additional 20 weeks. So that would be 13 weeks if New York State is experiencing what is known as high unemployment. If it's extremely high unemployment, that would be up to 20 weeks. So New York, if we go back, currently with the 8.9%, New York qualifies as having extremely high unemployment. So that would allow for what is currently up to 20 weeks, as long as the money does not run out. Because legislation has changed several times over the past year, you might have qualified and began receiving extended benefits earlier than other applicants. However, the current rule is that you must first exhaust 50 weeks of benefits. So that would be 26 weeks of regular unemployment insurance compensation and 24 weeks of PEUC. Once you have exhausted those, you can begin to receive extended benefits. So how do you file for unemployment assistance or pandemic unemployment assistance? Now there's a single application. Last year, when everything first started, the procedure was that you would file your regular unemployment application. You either got approved or denied. If you got denied, then you could file an application for pandemic unemployment assistance. Now there's one application. Based on how the applicant answers the questions, the Department of Labor decides this is either for regular unemployment assistance or for pandemic unemployment assistance. You can file online using the NYORK.gov ID. You would log in, you can file that way. You also can file via phone. You would call the number that is shown, the 888 number. If you file online, and I will stress this, you do not use a VPN. Now, for those of you who don't know, a VPN is something that blurs where you are. Some people do it for security reasons, people do it for other reasons. However, for the Department of Labor, you have to show that you're in the area in which you're certifying. If you are not in the area, you should not be applying at that point in time. If you ran out for a family emergency, then when you come back, you can explain that to the Department of Labor. It's easier to just apply appropriately than to have to go back and try to prove that you were where you needed to be. Oftentimes, that's how people get denied. They consider that to be fraud. You want to stay away from that if you can. The nice thing is that there's no longer any waiting weeks. However, your claim does have to be processed. So you'll effectively be waiting for benefits to kick in, but they are being backdated to the date of job loss. So you'll get the money. It's just, you might have to wait a little bit. Also, after you file, you must continue to certify weekly. One point on that, any week in which you do not certify, you do not get benefits for. So if you are qualified for 52 weeks of benefits and you miss 5 weeks, you're going to get 52 minus 5 weeks of benefits. The benefit year ending date is pretty important. That date signifies when your claim comes to an end, when your current claim comes to an end. The general rule is that once that date comes, you cannot collect any additional benefits past that date. You can check your date by going into labor.newyork.gov/sign-in. You'll go to unemployment services, and then you'll go to view payment history. There you should see a line item that's titled benefit year ending date. If you don't have an online account, or just alternatively, you can look at the determination letter that you receive from the Department of Labor. There'll be what is known as the benefit year ending date, and it'll be labeled as such. If you're a regular unemployment insurance claimant, you may qualify for extended benefits, or you might need to file a new claim, and that is based on your recent work history. So if you were collecting and then you took a job that ended after a week, after a month, if you're getting close to the end of your benefit year ending date, you might actually end up needing to file a new claim. And that's even if extended benefits exist. The Department of Labor continuously looks at what your work history is, and they make determinations based off of that. If you are a recipient of pandemic unemployment assistance, you do not need to reapply. You can just continue certifying as long as the extended benefits exist. The Mixed Earner Unemployment Compensation Program is intended to support workers with multiple income streams who earn the bulk of their pay through 1099 or self-employment work, but they're currently receiving what would be an artificially low benefit because it's based solely on their W-2 earnings. The idea is to try to recuperate some of the lost 1099 earnings that you would have received had there not been a pandemic. Since the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program does support self-employed and gig workers who don't have any current traditional wage income, those individuals who are receiving those benefits would not be eligible for this program. So some benefits of this program is that it does provide you with an extra $100 a week. Currently, it runs from January 3rd to September 5th of this year, which is wonderful. It may be extended. That would be based on any additional legislation. The qualifications for this program is that you must be collecting regular unemployment insurance benefits, pandemic emergency unemployment compensation, or extended benefits. And you have to have earned at least $5,000 in self-employment in the year prior to you filing for benefits. So part of your application would be that you would be submitting proof of that income for the year before you filed for unemployment compensation. An easy way of doing that would be to give them a copy of your tax return or your 1099s. How do you apply? You would go online, NewYork.gov login, and there would be an application there. There's also the dedicated line just for that application, and the number is right there, 1-833-719-1904. If you call that number, it's an automated line. You would just go through the questions. Your application will not be considered to be complete until you have handed in the documentation that shows that you earned at least $5,000 for the year prior. The American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 became effective just recently on March 11th. There are many parts to it, but here's a quick overview of how it relates to unemployment insurance benefits. The nice thing is that it extends benefits and it allows for continued certification to receive benefits beyond what you normally would receive. If you are receiving pandemic unemployment assistance or pandemic emergency unemployment compensation, it allows you to continue to collect until September 6th of this year. It has fully funded the extended benefits program. So as long as New York State is in the extremely high unemployment, it allows you to collect the 20 weeks of extended benefits. And it allows for the waiting week to continue to be waived. I apologize. So once again, talking about that benefit year ending date, if you're receiving regular unemployment assistance, you want to pay attention to that date. You want to pay attention to whether or not you have a recent work history, because you may need to submit a new application if at any point during this year you're approaching that date. Partial unemployment eligibility. This is an exciting change to qualifying for benefits when you're working part-time. So previously, your benefits would be reduced based on the number of days worked. Now it's based on hours. If you went in for a day, you were there for 20 minutes, you clocked in, you clocked out, that would count as a full day worked, which was very inconvenient to people, and your benefits would be reduced accordingly. Each day worked, it was reduced by 25%. That is no longer the case now. Now, as long as you work for 30 hours or less for that week, and you continue to earn less than $504 for that week, because that's the max benefits, you'll be able to collect and claim benefits. So for example, if you worked 4 hours for that week, it doesn't matter which days, how many days, but just a total of 4 hours, your benefits are not reduced at all. And then on this chart that's there, it shows accordingly how it gets reduced based on the number of days worked. The nice thing though, is that any day in which you work over 10 hours, you only claim 10 hours for that day. So say you're a nurse's aide and you work 2 15-hour days, you would only actually claim 20 hours. And as long as you've earned less than $504 for that week, your benefits will only be reduced by 50%. So that's wonderful. It really allows people to bring more money home, which was the goal of the changes that have been made. Unfortunately, we do need to talk about possibilities of fraud in conjunction with unemployment benefits. I'm sure people have seen the news. Fraud has been a little bit on the rise during this pandemic. So there are a bunch of possible indicators of fraud, but some common signs are, for example, if you receive notification from the Department of Labor about anything with unemployment, and you know you never applied for benefits, you're probably a victim of fraud. You probably are experiencing identity theft. You should report it. If you did apply or didn't apply, but you're getting mail for someone else, for the Department of Labor at your address, someone who doesn't live there, you want to report that as well. And the reason is because both of those things are protecting you as well as anyone else. You might think to yourself, especially if you didn't apply, well, how does this affect me? It affects you because the following year, you might end up getting a 1099, and then they're going to expect you to pay taxes on monies that you didn't receive. I don't know about anyone else, but I don't believe in paying taxes for money I didn't make. So I would report it. The way you report it to the Department of Labor is to use their online form, on.newyork.gov/UI fraud. Depending on what is happening, if it's that you're getting notifications under your name and you didn't apply, you would also want to report it to the Federal Trade Commission, identitytheft.gov. And that just lets everyone know, hey, there's something happening that was not due to my cause. I didn't approve it. And that gives you protections now and in the future. I will say it will stop the claim. There will be no additional benefits paid until there's an investigation done. That might be inconvenient, but it really does provide you with protection, which is the ultimate goal. You don't want to be dinged for anything that didn't involve you. New York State is recognizing that it is taking time to go through these investigations. So they're trying to find faster ways to churn through everything. And one way is through submitting the identity documentation. They're using ID.me now. If you report fraud, they will let you know when to go online. You can go online, go to that website, upload your identity documentation, and hopefully it will make everything a little faster. If you're filing for benefits for the first time, you're calling into the telephone claim center, or you're trying to do it online, and you're informed that you have a claim and you know you never previously filed, you do also want to call the telephone claim center. The reason is one, you want to report it, but two, you can speak with a live person who can help you process your actual claim. So hopefully you get along further in the process and are able to get monies faster. So say you get a notice from the Department of Labor that you don't agree with. Maybe it's a result from a fraud investigation. Maybe you requested a recalculation of benefits and you're denied a higher amount. Maybe you're just denied benefits in total. Maybe you're receiving benefits and now the Department of Labor has decided that there's an overpayment. What do? First, you look at the letter from the Department of Labor. Make sure you read all mail from them. If you're communicating with them online, Make sure you go and see if there's any secure messages from them. Any letter or communication received should help explain what's going on. Whatever it is, you have a finite amount of time in which to respond. If it's a regular determination letter, you only have 30 days. If it's something else, the amount of time will be listed on the communication. I will say it generally isn't longer than 30 days, and that really usually is for a determination. Oftentimes I'm seeing things that say about 7 days, 21 days. So you really want to pay attention to that. For the purposes of this, we'll stick with the determination letter. You have to request a hearing within 30 days from the date listed on the top of the letter or the communication you've received via email. It's not from the date it was received by you. And that's important to remember because that's oftentimes how we then get into discussions of whether or not something was timely. If you end up getting your letter late, still send out the request. Just put in the request. This is the date it was received at my house. I'm sending out the response to you, and hopefully they act accordingly. If you have any further information that proves your position, I always tell people to provide a copy of it at the time that you're making your request for a hearing or redetermination. If you're doing it online, you can take a picture, you can scan it, you can upload the documents online. The reason I say to do that is because sometimes that helps you to avoid a hearing, and it'll cause the representative who's looking at your case to conduct another investigation and hopefully reverse their decision. I won't say it's a super fast process, but I still feel it's quicker than waiting for a hearing date and going through a hearing. And the idea is to hopefully get you your benefits as soon as possible. If you need to request a hearing, you can do it online. You would log in and you would choose the claimant request for a hearing form. You can also do it via mail. You would write to the New York State Department of Labor. Their PO box is 15131. In all my years, I haven't seen that change, so that would be the address you would use. But it's always listed on the back of the letter. You also can request via fax, and I've included the number there. Now, maybe I'm a little old school, but I always tell people I prefer email or fax over mail. And the reason why is because oftentimes people forget to make a copy before sending something out. If you do it via email, you're taking a picture and you're sending it. If you're doing a fax, you're walking away with the same documents that you just sent through the fax. So you don't have to worry about whether or not you sent your originals because you're not going to get them back. You're not worrying about making a copy, and everything is pretty instantaneous, even with fax. Snail mail is slow. We've seen the articles about how the Postal Service is slow. I say email or fax first, but you do have the option to do it via mail as well if you choose to do so. How do you contact the Department of Labor? I've listed it here. The best option is via secure message by going online. Not only is it in the moment, even though you won't get a response in the moment, the nice thing is that if there's ever a hearing or if you ever need proof of communication, you can go right back online and print out all the communication that was there. You can always access that. If that doesn't work for you, if you don't have access to email, you can call in. I've included the number for the telephone claim center, the numbers for certifications only, and the number for the claimant advocate office. So you can call that office if you have general questions about your hearing. Maybe you just want to verify that they've received your hearing request. You can call that number. If you just have a general question about something in your file, you can call that number because they always have access to anything the Department of Labor has. If you're at the point in which maybe you've lost a hearing or you agree that there was an overpayment, something along those lines, you're trying to make a payment plan or just talk about it, you can call the number listed for the collections unit. That's where you would reach out to them and they could talk with you about what's going on. Like I said previously, you can still talk with the Department of Labor or communicate with them by sending them a letter, and you can always fax them as well. I included this. Do not forget the claimant handbook because it is extremely important. Do not forget the claimant handbook. Many hearings turn on the simple fact that there is a ton of information in that handbook. And the Department of Labor has ruled that it is always the responsibility of the claimant to check that authority. Even if you talk with me, anyone else, other than a Department of Labor representative, the rule is that the handbook is the authority before any of us. And it doesn't matter how knowledgeable we are, you have to refer to the handbook. If you don't have a physical copy of the handbook, you can go online. It's on the unemployment website for New York State. You also can request a copy if you call into the telephone claims center or if you send them a secure message, if you want a physical copy of the handbook. But it's really helpful. I mean, there's a ton of things in there. It explains how they calculate benefit weeks. It explains what you should do if you feel you're working full-time, part-time, anything like that. That handbook is there for all of those things as well. However, if you need someone like me, and we welcome the contact, this is how you would reach out to the Volunteer Lawyers Project. Even though we're still working from home, you can always stop by if you need to drop off documentation. There's our address, and we have envelopes outside the door. You can leave anything, and it will definitely get to either me or my paralegal. If you need to reach out to me directly, you would call our number and call my extension, which is 303, or you can always send me an email, and my address is listed as well. Are there any questions?
I don't have anything from Facebook.
Okay. I'm going to view that as me being very thorough, I hope.
Yes, you did a great job. Emily, anything in the chat?
No, no questions in the chat, but again, Valdora, if you want to go back one page,
Yes.
you can always call our agency 716-847-0662. Valdora's direct extension is 303. I'm actually the paralegal that works with Valdora, so we are always here to help and answer any questions that you may have. So please feel free to give our office a call if you have any questions or you're experiencing any unemployment issues. Thank you so much, Valdora, for today's presentation. You're right, no questions means you did an amazing job. It was very informative, so thank you again.
Thank you, guys.